Okay, so now that we've practiced or reviewed the composition of functions, let's look at how we take the derivative of a composition of functions. So here we've got the derivative of f composed with g of x. The chain rule tells us how to handle this derivative. To start, you do the derivative of that outer function and leave the inner function alone. Alright, so this should look familiar. This is exactly what we practiced doing at the end of the previous video, f prime of g of x. That's the first part of the chain rule. To finish the chain rule, we multiply by the derivative of that inner function. Okay, so to do the chain rule correctly, when we're doing the derivative of a composition of functions, it basically boils down to two pieces. This first piece, you do the derivative of the outer function but you leave that inner function alone. You don't touch it. So we leave the inner function alone. And then to finish, the second piece is where we handle that inner function. We multiply by the derivative of that inner function. Okay, so this is essentially what the chain rule looks like, or what the rule says, but now we need to see some examples. Do some examples, and the more examples we can look at, the better. After we've done a few of these, we'll kind of start to get the hang of it. Alright, so if the rule itself doesn't make sense quite yet, maybe after these first few examples it will. Okay, so our first example, the function we're going to find the derivative of is 1 plus x squared raised to the 99th power. Okay. Now, again, going back to something we practiced in the previous video, we can kind of identify here, just kind of the scratch work. We know that we have an outer and an inner function here. My outer function is I have something raised to the 99th power. So my outer function, I'm doing something raised to the 99th power. But then the thing that's on the inside, the thing that I'm raising to the 99th power, is that 1 plus x squared. Okay? So now, if I want to do the derivative of this is the composition of two functions, the derivative. First I'm going to do the derivative of the outer function and leave the inner function alone. Okay? So I know that if I want to do the derivative of x to the 99th, we know how to handle that. That's just the basic power rule. The derivative of x to the 99th power is 99x to the 98th power, right? Basic power rule. We'll do that here, that power rule, 99 times x to the 98th power, but instead of an x, we're going to leave that inside function there. Okay, so this is going to be 99 times the whole inside function to the 98th power. Alright, so what I've written down so far, if my outer function, if I call that f, and my inner function I call that g, what I have written down here is f prime of g of x. Okay, this is the first part of the chain rule. So I did the power rule, 99 times that stuff raised to the 98th power, and then I have to finish the chain rule by multiplying by the derivative of that stuff. Alright, so the derivative of that stuff, that's the derivative of the inner function. What is the derivative of the inner function? So if this inner function is g, then g prime would be, let's see, the derivative of 1 is 0. The derivative of x is 1. The derivative of x squared is 2x to the first power. Alright, some more power rule derivatives. So g prime, the derivative of the inner function, is just 1 plus 2x. So that would be our g prime of x, the derivative of the inner function. Alright, so the basic idea is you have to identify what your outer function is, do the derivative of that, and leave the inner function alone. Then to finish, you have to multiply by the derivative of whatever's on the inside, the derivative of that inner function. Alright, now I'm going to stop this video here, and then in the next video I'm going to do just a handful of more examples, just so we can kind of get the hang of this thing. Alright, so we'll stop this one here and pick up with more examples in the next one.